In the crystal pools found within the Kitakami region, we can meet with either Professor Turo or Sada. What's really interesting about this encounter is the fact that the whole idea of linear time travel, something that we were sold on in the base game, kind of gets flipped on its head here. The professor explicitly mentions that there exists a possibility of there being different but overlapping timelines, which means that the Paradox Pokémon aren't actually from our past or future at all, but instead they could be from a timeline where something went a little different than it did in our world. I mean, if this is truly the way the professor says it is, then there must have been an event that created these primal and futuristic Pokémon in those altering timelines. So that's kind of the idea I want to tackle in this video. And, well, to continue it on, we need to find a plausible cause. Something that could have caused this whole timeline split mess to occur in the first place. Let us take a look at the Paldea region as a whole. This piece of land is based on the Iberian Peninsula, which in our real world consists of Spain and Portugal. The only country that borders this piece of land is France, which luckily enough already exists within the Pokemon world, the Kalos region. And in the Kalos region lies a heavily debated theory topic, something that a lot of people use to explain pretty much everything. And while technically yes, I'll be using it here too, the whole idea revolves around something bigger. So with that in mind, the ultimate weapon is the most likely event that could have caused this timeline split to occur. I got to this conclusion because of two key factors. First is something Zinnia, a Draconid lorekeeper from the Hoenn region, tells us in the Moss Deep space station. It's there that she ponders out loud about an alternate timeline where the ultimate weapon didn't fire, a timeline where Mega Evolution never existed in the first place. This is obviously a reference to the Alpha and Omega game's predecessors, but it also shows us that Game Freak has thought about the ultimate weapon's connection to timelines before. The other point that brought me to this conclusion is the difference between Pokémon X and Y. In both games, the ultimate weapon misfires, yes, but in Pokémon X, it's Xerneas that was used to power it, while in Pokémon Y, it's Yveltal. The ending to this event also changes, as Lysander threatens us with eternal life in X and, well, eternal demise in Y. Do you see where I'm getting at with this? Seems like a pretty good plausible cause, no? I mean, this is not all I have. For example, if Lysander had succeeded in firing the ultimate weapon with Xerneas acting as the battery, well, then the world would have been bathed in a ton of life energy, and that could have very well permanently mutated the local wildlife into the savage, primal-like past Paradox Pokémon. On the other hand, if Lysander had used Yveltal instead, then the blast could have drained the world of its life force, forcing humans to cybernetically enhance the surviving Pokémon just to keep them alive in a toxic, desolate wasteland. Now, as cool as this still borders closer on fanfiction than logical theory crafting, so we gotta find ourselves a little bit more evidence. And to find it, we need to head to the Great Crater of Paldea. You know, the place where the Paradox Pokémon are found. In there, we can also find these white and shiny crystals, which are appropriately dubbed Tera Crystals. These crystals, as you definitely know, are what allows for Pokémon to terrestrialize, a way for them to change typing temporarily by donning a variety of hats, which, as a side note, could have definitely been executed better, especially when we have Ogerpon and Terapagos, which are way better. Speaking of Terapagos though, its connection to these crystals is pretty undeniable. After all, they were created as a byproduct of its million or so year slumber. These byproducts do, however, seem to inherit just a bit of Terapagos' powers over types, and most importantly, time and space. They're even used for this exact purpose in Scarlet and Violet. The quote-unquote time machine is powered and constructed out of these very crystals. And if you haven't pulled the connection here yet, then I'll give you one last nudge in the right direction. The time machine isn't the only thing that looks to be made entirely out of these white, shiny, and surprisingly sturdy crystals. Do you get where I'm going with this now? Take a look at AZ's ultimate weapon. Could these two machines be made out of the same crystal-like material? Maybe. But as the saying goes, you shouldn't judge a book by just its cover. So let's dig deeper. And with that I mean it quite literally, as the answer to this question is found deep underground. in a book. Within Lysander's old laboratory, we can find a variety of literature stashed away in cluttered bookshelves. While most talk about either Lysander's or AZ's existential crises, one of them tells us something pretty interesting. It holds records of the time when AZ first made the ultimate weapon. It's within these pages that its construction was described as having used technology unlike any seen during that era. Interesting. So you mean to tell me that AZ sourced advanced technology from somewhere? Someplace that also presumably was close to the Kalos region? Then again though, that is just a speculation on my part. Or is it? Because if we once again go back down the crater into the deepest parts of Area 0, we can learn that the machine built by the professors only works because of the crystals. Otherwise, the technology of our time wouldn't be advanced enough for it. Okay, so bear with me for a second here. If these two machines are truly made of the same crystals, then it would actually make sense for the machine in Area 0 to pull Pokémon from the two split timelines the ultimate weapon could have created. They're connected through the crystal's energy, which, now that I think about it, actually has been done before. Remember when I talked about Kitakami? The crystal pool there is also filled with these same Tera shards, and that's exactly what allows for the phenomenon I talked about at the beginning of the video to occur. It's something that the locals call speaking to the dead, but in reality this is just a link between two timelines that is fostered by the crystals created by Terapagos. Rant aside, you can kind of see where this is all starting to connect now, right? Well, if you're not convinced yet, then let's move on to the next section, shall we? Welcome to the Alola region, where we've got sunny skies, malasadas, and the occasional being that invades through an ultra wormhole. Or 5. While the main story of the Ultra Sun and Moon games do revolve around these sky holes, it mostly tackles Ultra Beasts coming out of them, which, for this video anyway, isn't as important. No, we need to talk about the post-game content here, specifically the event where Team Rainbow Rocket, an organization spearheaded by the infamous Giovanni, invades our dimension's Alola region. Not only that, Giovanni has also taken it upon himself to invite a few rather familiar faces. Among them, we have 3 that we'll be talking about today. One of them is obviously Lysander, but the other 2 are actually the leaders of Team Aqua and Magma respectively. These 2 fellas aren't the ones we know from the Pokémon Omega Ruby or Alpha Sapphire games. But why? I mean, let's think about it here. The world of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, as stated before, is the alternate timeline of the original games, aka where these 2 are from. The Archie and Maxie from those newer games are able to use Mega Evolution because the ultimate weapon was fired in their timeline. However, these 2, the ones that were summoned to our version's Alola, are not. But they exist regardless of that fact, which means that either A, the Omega and Alpha versions of the 2 leaders just don't exist, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense since the game's version of events, where Rayquaza Mega evolves and such, is referenced in future titles such as ZA. So that leaves us with option B. Both of these timelines exist at the same time. A similar split in timelines occurred here. It was just facilitated by AZ and not Lysander like in our theory. Anyhow, Lysander is also here and he's got a few minor differences depending on the version of the game you're playing. And yes, it's exactly what you think it is. In Pokémon Ultra Sun, he uses Xerneas, and in Pokémon Ultra Moon, he uses Yveltal instead. That again does solidify the fact that he did use one of the 2 legendaries to power the ultimate weapon, but his existence here also tells us something else. After the battle, he asks himself whether or not things could have gone differently in his world if there would have been a trainer like ourselves there to stop him. Which means that Calum or Serena didn't exist in that reality. Team Flare had no opposition in that world. Now, finally, you might be wondering, if Lysander does come from the reality where these Paradox Pokémon roam naturally, then why doesn't he use them? And the simple answer to that is because he was forcefully transported here to Alola right after he pressed the button to use his weapon. And now, with everything in mind, we need to take a look at the Paradox Pokémon themselves. Let's start with the ones found in Pokémon Scarlet, aka the subjectively cooler looking ones. In this group, we have Great Tusk, Screamtail, Brute Bonnet, Fluttermane, Slithering, Sandyshocks, Roaring Moon, Koraidon, Walking Wake, Gouging Fire, and Raging Bolt. We can separate these guys into 3 groups: the normal Pokémon, the Mega Evolution lookalike, and the legendaries. The normal Pokémon, if you can even call them that, are obviously just extremely feral versions of their usual counterparts. Great Tusk and Slithering mutated into these violently hulking monstrosities, both gaining the fighting typing. The more gentle-looking Pokémon like Jigglypuff and Misdreavus became Screamtail and Fluttermane. Their usual temperaments did a 180, with Jigglypuff screaming, hence the name. And Fluttermane, well, it certainly decided to become a powerhouse and start competing in competitive tournaments, because who decided this is an okay stat total? Brute Bonnet and Sandy Shocks are the last of the normal bunch, with them both just becoming more feral as well. Brute Bonnet, interestingly enough, keeps its Pokeball design, which, in my opinion, further reinforces this mutation being caused by Xerneas' life energy idea, since the past didn't really need this Pokeball design to act as a defense mechanism. With those guys out of the way though, let's look at the absolutely magnificent specimen of Roaring Moon. Its visage is very clearly a mirror to Mega Salamence, which again does support the idea that this was the ultimate weapon's doing, as it was also the culprit behind Mega Evolution first being created. But let's also look at the legendaries, 4 in total, Koraidon and the 3 legendary beasts. This is where it starts to get just a bit more tricky. First off, why is Koraidon considered a legendary now? It's obviously not because of its singular status, as it's based off of both the abundant Cyclozards, and we can also see 2 of them in the games. Maybe it has a little something to do with how much energy they were hit by? Or maybe it's something to do with the heavy interaction with humans. I sadly don't have much more of a concrete answer here, so let's move on to the more interesting legendaries, the 3 beasts of Johto. While the info we have on these Pokemon is limited, we do have one pretty vital piece of knowledge we can glean from Gouging Fire's Pokédex entry. It reads that this Pokemon was said to be an Entei regenerated from a fossil. Cool and all, but now that I think about it, this statement is kind of a double-edged sword for this theory as well. On one hand, it supports it wonderfully, a legendary Pokemon's fossil being revived by the life energy taken directly from the legendary life Pokemon seems extremely plausible. On the other hand, why is Entei a fossil in the first place? After all, last time I checked, it's still very much alive and kicking in our reality. But then again, these are still separate timelines we're talking about, so minor differences like this could still be there. And also, this is still just a speculation by the scientists who wrote the Pokédex entry, so I would always take this with a little bit of a grain of salt. Enough about the Scarlet paradoxes though, let's talk about the future. Here we have Iron Treads, Iron Bundle, Iron Hands, Iron Jugulas, Iron Moth, Iron Thorns, Iron Valiant, Iron Serpent, Iron Leaves, Iron Boulder, and Iron Crown. These bad boys are a lot easier to explain than the beasts from before. Remember how I said that there could have been one timeline where the ultimate weapon fired Yveltal's energy? Yeah, that would be this futuristic timeline. In simple terms, the laser could have likely killed off everyone and everything, which resulted in those hardy enough to survive it having to rebuild. But with most Pokemon being, well, gone now, their only real option was to rebuild them based off of their Pokédex entries. What's pretty cool about these Iron Mons though are the in-game theories that we can find in the May issue of the Occulture magazine. Iron Treads, for example, is thought to be a weapon from another world. Or even better, Iron Hands is theorized to be an athlete who became so mortally wounded that they had to be kept alive by being made into a cyborg, which makes you think, what are they doing over there to warrant this many modifications? Jokes aside, Iron Moth also has a pretty cool one. People theorize it to be a UFO controlled by alien life, and those who are controlling it are waiting for the right moment to mount an invasion. The Mega Evolution lookalike is the most interesting in my opinion though. Iron Valiant seems to be a combination of both Gardevoir and Gallade, and it's also likely to be based off of both of their Mega Evolutions. There is a stark difference between their normal version and their robotic ones, however. Iron Valiant, unlike their original counterparts, is said to be a cruel Pokemon that's willing to cut down anything in its path. Now on to the legendaries. Miraidon is in a similar position to Koraidon, where little is known about it other than what I already talked about previously. That same point cannot be said about the other 3 future Paradox legendaries though. Iron Leaves, Iron Boulder, and Iron Crown at first seem to be remade versions of the Swords of Justice, but that's the thing, they likely are the same ones that we know. In the Dubious Magazine's article on Iron Boulder, we learn about its creation. It's said that an evil organization actually modified Terrakian's body, turning it into a weapon. If we then look at Iron Leaves and Iron Crown as well, a similar thing probably happened to them too. Sure, that isn't explicitly stated in their Dubious Magazine entries, but it would only make sense for the evil organization to do the same for the rest of the trio. But who even is this evil organization? Well, we can only really guess here. I would think it to be Team Flare, as we know that their scientists are clearly capable of engineering powerful technology, as we had seen with Sorosic and Emma's expansion suit. So what are we left with here? The Paradox Pokémon and even AZ's ultimate weapon are all linked to the crystals found in Area 0. There is of course still the question of why does Area 0 exist, for which I will definitely do another video on. But hey, if you enjoyed this theory and don't want to wait until the next one, then you might just be interested to know that I'll be streaming more regularly from now on, both here on YouTube but also over on Twitch. Either way, hope you all enjoyed the video, and make sure to subscribe both here and grab the Twitch link in the description so you don't miss the live streams. Catch you guys then.